welcome to the Farm Show. This week our episode is on a farm north of New York Mills. I believe we're exactly between Mills and Sebeka.
Yeah, halfway.
Visiting with my friend Harold Wendels. Harold's been here a long time, so we're going to get some history today. Harold no longer lives on this farm, but he did grow up on this farm, and him and his wife Jane farmed here for many years. His son and family now operate this farm. So Harold, welcome to the Farm Show. And thinking back to the history, I'm curious, what was it like to live on a farm in the 1930s? What was different?
It's hard to describe because my dad got so conservative when we were growing up because his stepfather was a real well-to-do man. And my dad worked for him till he was 34 years old. And there were just wages. And the stepdad wouldn't take him in as a partner, so my dad just quit him. And then the stepdad got mad and sold at an auction sale and had a pile of money, a lot of money. And the banker, that kept the stepdad happy for many years, just sitting on that pile of money. And the banker in Sebeka talked him into buying half interest in the bank in 1928. I think that I really myself think that the banker smelt the rat already. What was going to happen?
Oh, the Depression coming.
Yeah, the next year the banks crashed. He lost everything. I can't remember how many thousands it was, but he lost his whole life's earning. That made my dad so conservative that he had helped the stepdad earn all that money and see it lost like that.
Mm-hmm. That affected a lot of people,
yeah.
I'm sure.
So as kids in the 30s, we were raised, well, I'll tell you one thing, I've got, in my dad's old records, I've got a lot of them yet. I've got 7 books, which I figure were the best, and there's more than that. 30 pages in each book, receipt books, where he borrowed money to the neighborhood money. Just enough so they could get by, and nobody could borrow much money, but just so they could get by. And it would make 210 loans that he made. They're all recorded in that. Mm-hmm. And I think most of them got paid back too.
Eventually, that's good.
But we had to live just like the neighbors did, without any luxuries.
Everyone was in the same situation.
And he could have afforded it because he was so conservative, saved his, although he lost money in the banks too. I know I've got cards there. It's funny when you look at them cards. Get a postcard in the mail from the state auditors. Here's a report on your holdings in the bank. You can retrieve 10% of it this year, and then you'll have to wait if there's any more coming. Send an open postcard.
No privacy.
Mailman could.
Okay. So, and back then, but the schools, they continued to function. There was country schools all over.
Function, that's about
the rural
all.
Areas.
I found receipts of my dad where the county had no money to pay the school teachers. No money. There's letters in there where the county would send my dad be on the town board, and he'd get a letter from the county that there won't be no money this month. Then I found a couple of checks that my dad cashed for the school teacher. They'd give him a voucher. The school teacher got a voucher. It was good sometime if you never knew when it was going to be good.
Future.
So my dad must have felt sorry for this one teacher. I see where he cashed 2 of them vouchers for her, and I give them back to. I find the old.
Which direction? Where was the school from?
Right
here?
Across the road.
Okay, you didn't have to walk so far. Some people went a couple miles.
Home for dinner.
Home for dinner. All right. Well, that was pretty good. And then, what crops were each farms growing at that time?
Rye and oats. There was no alfalfa. I can remember when my dad planted his first field of alfalfa.
Your farm has a big meadow. I suppose that's where you got hay.
Yeah. The meadow was that's the only thing that saved us here was we had a lot of meadow. And my dad used it in the spring clean the calf pens out and take that old tough calf manure and fill the ditches up so we wouldn't lose any water running away from the farm.
Oh.
And to hold it as long as you could. They always had a lot of snow. There'd be a lot of water in the spring, but that was the end of it.
Just a one time.
When that water all washed away, it was gone. So you'd plug the ditches and.
So then eventually things started improving. The economy did. I suppose that was the start of the war in Europe or whatever.
Yeah, it was 39 before it. And 39 was the poorest year for dairy. On record, that I've read that word. 1939 was the lowest year, so the war had to do it.
When did the tractors start replacing horses on the farm?
Not till I got out of the service, my dad bought his first tractor. I was
Okay.
22 years old.
So in the middle 40s.
Yeah, 46, yeah. I liked working with horses. I was a good horseman. The reason some of them wanted to get rid of horses so quick, they thought it was a drudgery working, but if you liked horses, it wasn't no drudgery working with them. Horses were good animals to work with, take good care of them.
Well, I imagine the early tractors weren't so great either. But
No.
and then to buy tractors, did every town have implement dealers, or
Yeah,
did you?
you had 3-4. Mills had 4 of them. But after the war, that's in 46, my oldest brother was one of the first ones that got discharged. And that's how come he come home and he wasn't going to put up with the horse farm.
Okay.
So he signed up. Veterans had first choice at new machinery and that. So we got a tractor pretty quick after the war. But my dad, that's when he decided he was done with farming too. He wanted to sell it, so he sold out to my brother and me.
Okay. Well, it's a wonderful looking farm here. I wanted to do our interview on the other side of the house. You got an old antique wagon there. That's just beautiful, but the mosquitoes are worse
But
over
that
there.
old shed there, it's still in good shape. And I wonder a lot of times how come the buildings are so shape. It's fur siding on them.
Oh.
And fur will outlast jack pine.
And the other building over
Jack
is
pine
like
has fur too, yeah.
with a gazebo built on the end. You can see that's been added on to.
Yeah.
And what was your story for that? For why the garage is longer than it used to be, or?
Yeah, it's 2 feet longer and still it's too short. When he got the 33, got a Model B Ford. It didn't fit into the back end, stuck out.
Oh.
It had swinging doors to open them up. They didn't have overhead doors, but the swinging doors. And then he got the next model they got. It still wouldn't fit. They just give it a letter. Just close the doors as far as I can.
New car need a bigger garage.
And talk about the Model Ts. The bad thing with them small garages, I can remember my dad always telling my older brother when he was going to take the car out, go out and jack the back tire up. You ever hear of that?
No.
Yeah. Nobody kept their cars in tip-top shape them years because there wasn't a mechanic that hardly understood them either, and the person that owned it didn't know a thing about the car. But you start cranking them, and the bands would start. If it started, it would start moving the car right away.
Oh.
You didn't have no good news.
Also, you got the wheels up off the ground.
Got the back wheel off the ground so the wheel could turn. It wouldn't climb it. There's guys that got pinned in their garage with. And guys that broke their arm cranking them too. They'd backfire.
So yeah, and then I'm sure electricity coming to the farms had to be a big event.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Lights first, or electric motors, or what did people adapt?
It's just lights first. They had $3.50 minimum. That's what you had to pay when you first come.
For a month?
Yeah.
Okay.
That was kind of the test in the neighborhood because you got together with your neighbors all the time. Oh yeah, I stayed under that. Well, pretty soon you start buying a few other things and you couldn't stay under that 3.5 no more.
And then, of course, with electricity, more and more uses all the time. That never ends. And so that had to be a big change with electricity. And of course, the house, your house, firewood for heat
Yes.
originally?
Yes. And them old houses weren't insulated. I insulated after we come back to the farm. I insulated the house. But
Took a lot of firewood.
Yeah. Get them heated up, and that fire would go out, and within an hour the house would be cold already because the air would just come in. I can remember in the windows in the house there, we'd have frost that thick on the windows in the house. One time I seen that frost there, and I thought it was fun playing with that. So I got the stove poker, hot stove poker. You always had your poker sitting in the, what you used to move the, it was always hot. So I took and I was going to use that to melt that ice and draw pictures. The minute I touched that glass, just blew.
Oh, only do that once. So, well, I'm sure you've got a lot of more stories that we can go over, but we're going to have to cut it off here pretty soon. So,
one story I'd like to tell you about.
Okay, good.
Well, my dad grew up was on the farm up there, down his stepfather's place, and the neighbor there was an old bachelor gardener. My dad bought his first Model T in 1913. That must have burnt it. And the neighbor was a hard-boiled guy anyway. Must have made him mad that young guy can buy a Model T. I can buy one too. There was no dealers around. Just a private party would sell Ford cars, or it had no garages. So he went and bought one too. I think my dad said he hit the ditch 5 times coming home. He got home, he was so mad his sister, an old maid, was living with him. He got her to help him. They pushed it into the shed backwards and never took it out. That Model T was never run again. That's where the roof finally went. My dad was administrator for it when the old guy died. And I went with him when he had I figure out what the stuff was worth. That shed had fallen down, the rafters had fallen down on that Model T, and it was just cloth, just smashed everything.
The Model T was still in the garage.
Yeah, it was still in the garage there.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a neat story. Well, thank you, Harold. And thank you for watching The Farm Show. We'll see you next week.